Hey guys, tonight we are going to do something a little different. We are not going to talk about grand battles, or crowning kings, or the rise and fall of empires. Instead, we are going to get very, very personal. We are going to dive into the mind of one of history's most misunderstood figures, the Viking Berserker, and we are going to explore what they actually did all day. Spoiler alert, it was just non-stop raging. In fact, most of it was probably kinda boring and deeply unsettling. You are not just a warrior in this story. You are an outcast. A walking weapon that even your own family is a little nervous to have around for breakfast. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It helps the channel find other people like you, who appreciate the quieter side of history. Then while you are at it, let me know your city and what time it is where you are. I love seeing our little community of night owls stretching all across the globe. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice when you wake up isn't the light, but the cold. It is a damp, persistent chill that seeps up from the hard-packed earth floor and through the straw-stuffed mattress beneath you. You are lying on a wooden platform built against the long, curved wall of the longhouse. A thick, scratchy wool blanket is pulled up to your chin, smelling faintly of wood smoke. Lay on and sleep. You don't open your eyes just yet. You listen. You can hear the heart of the home, the low, steady crackle of the central fire pit. It is the only source of heat and light in this long, cavernous space you share with 20 other people. Your family. You hear the soft shuffling of your mother already moving about. The gentle clink of a clay pot. Someone coughs. A deep, chesty sound that echoes slightly in the high, smoke-stained rafters. Outside, the wind is whistling a mournful tune. A reminder that even though spring is trying its best, the Scandinavian winter still has its claws in the world. This is how every morning begins. It is predictable. It is safe. But today, something feels off. You finally open your eyes. The world is painted in shades of gray and orange. Dim light filters down from the smoke hole in the roof, illuminating a hazy column of air where dust motes and smoke particles dance a slow, lazy waltz. Your father is sitting on a stool near the fire, sharpening a small knife, his face a mask of concentration. Your younger siblings are still lumps under their own blankets. It is all so normal. The abnormality is not outside. It is inside you. It is a low hum, a vibration deep in your bones. It is a warmth in your belly that has nothing to do with the fire. It is a strange energy, like a tightly coiled spring, and it makes your hands feel too big, your muscles too tight for your own skin. You take a slow, deep breath, trying to calm it, but it is like trying to gentle a storm. You swing your legs over the side of the platform, your bare feet meeting the cold, unforgiving earth. You pull on a simple linen tunic and rough woolen trousers, lacing up your leather shoes. As you move towards the fire, you feel their eyes on you. It is subtle, but it is there. Your mother turns from the pot of bubbling porridge. Regret, she smiles, but it does not quite reach her eyes. There is a flicker of something in her gaze, not fear, not yet, but a deep, weary caution. She hands you a wooden bowl and a spoon, and for a split second, her fingers hesitate before they let go, as if she is handing a tool to someone she is not sure knows how to use it. You nod your thanks, your throat too tight to speak. You dip your spoon into the thick, bland oat mash. This is the food of life, the fuel for a day of mending nets or chopping wood. But it tastes like ash in your mouth. Your father looks up from his knife. He does not look at your face. He looks at your hands, currently clenched around a simple wooden bowl. He looks at them for a long moment, his expression unreadable, and then he looks back at his blade. The silence is heavier than any words. Even your little brother and sister, now awakened chasing a small wooden toy near the door, pause their game as you walk past. They watch you with wide, curious eyes, the way a field mouse watches a hawk circling high above. They don't know what you are. Not really, but their instincts tell them you are different. You stand at the heavy wooden door, pushing it open just a crack. A blast of cold, clean air hits your face, carrying the scent of pine in the nearby fjord. The world outside is vast and quiet, but the storm is inside you. This feeling, this strained, simmering power you cannot name, is what truly sets you apart. And even now, a millennium later, people who study the old ways are still fiercely debating what it was. Historians argue whether this state was a form of self-induced hypnosis, a psychological battle frenzy, a religious ecstasy dedicated to the god Odin, or something else entirely. All you know is that it lives in your blood, and it makes the simple act of eating breakfast with your family feel like a lie. You are a part of them, but you are also dangerously, terrifyingly, apart from them. You step out of the longhouse, pulling the heavy door shut behind you. The sound it makes is a solid, definitive thud, separating the warm, smoky air of home from the vast, cold emptiness of the morning. The village is slowly coming to life around you. Smoke rises from the roofs of other longhouses scattered along the curve of the fjord. Down by the water, a couple of fishermen are already entangling their nets, their movements slow and practiced in the chilly air. You can hear the distant, rhythmic clang of the blacksmith's hammer, a sound as regular and dependable as a heartbeat. This is your world. It is a place of hard work and clear purpose. Every person has a role, a set of tasks that binds them to the community. They are farmers, fishers, smiths, weavers, builders. Their lives are a tapestry woven from threads of necessity and tradition. But you feel like a loose thread, snagged and pulled from the main design. You walk away from the longhouse, your feet finding the familiar path that winds between the buildings. You don't have a destination in mind. You are just moving to try and outpace the humming in your veins. It is a strange energy. This thing inside you, it is not anger. Anger is hot and sharp, a flash flood that rises and falls with a clear cause. You know anger. You felt it when a rival boy broke your favorite fishing spear, when a merchant tried to shortchange your father at the market. This is different. This is a deep, tidal force. It has no reason. It just is. It is a pressure building behind your eyes, a strange desire to run until your lungs burn, to shout until your throat is raw, to hit something solid just to feel the impact. It is like there's a wild animal living in your bones, and most of the time it is sleeping. But when it starts to stir, like now, it paces the cage of your ribs, rattling the bars, reminding you that it is there. You clench and unclench your fists, the knuckles white. The feeling is maddening. It is power with no outlet, a tool with no instructions. You pass two women walking back from the stream, carrying heavy wooden buckets of water. They nod to you, a quick, polite gesture, but their chatter ceases until you are several paces past them. They don't mean to be unkind, but you are a story they tell their children at night to make them behave. You are the reason they bolt their doors. Near the edge of the settlement, you see a man sitting on a log outside his home. He is meticulously combing his long, blonde hair with a comb carved from antler. It is a surprisingly common sight. For all the talk of savage Northmen, your people are actually quite vain about their appearance. Archaeologists digging up your future will find countless combs, tweezers, and even tiny, delicate tear spoons. Some sagas even complain that the Vikings' habit of combing their hair daily and taking a weekly bath on Laugardagar, or washing day, which would one day become Saturday, made them unfairly attractive to foreign women. It is a mundane, humanizing detail, and it makes your own internal turmoil feel even more alien. How can this man sit so calmly, so peacefully, tending to his hair, when you feel like your very soul is trying to claw its way out of your body? You avert your gaze and head towards the tree line, seeking the solitude of the forest, the structured world of the village, with its rules and routines, feels suffocating. The untamed woods feel more like home to the thing inside you. As you step under the canopy of the pines, the air grows still and the light dims. The ground is soft with fallen needles. Here, the hum in your blood seems to get a little louder, a little stronger, as if it recognizes its natural habitat. This is the core of the mystery that future scholars will never truly solve. What is the nature of the state? The infamous Berserker gang. The sagas describe warriors who bit their shields, howled like animals, and were immune to fire and steel in their fury. Some historians argue it was a purely psychological phenomenon, a form of battle-induced psychosis. Others propose it was a shamanic tradition, a ritualistic transformation where the warrior did not just mimic an animal, but believed he was becoming it, channeling its spirit. They are still debating whether you are a man with a psychological condition or a man touched by the divine or the demonic. You lean your forehead against the rough bark of a massive pine tree, closing your eyes. The cold, textured surface is a small anchor in the storm. You don't feel divine. You don't feel sick. You just feel burdened. You are carrying a second soul, a silent, ravenous passenger, and you have no idea how to be its master. You only know that it is strong, and it is waking up. Just as you were trying to ground yourself against the ancient pine, a voice cuts through the stillness of the forest. It is a loud, gravelly sound, like stones rolling in a slow tide. The wolf paces. It does not know the strength of its own jaws until it bites. You whip your head around, startled. Your hand instinctively goes to the small utility knife your CX tucked into your belt. It is a pathetic weapon against a real threat, but the touch of the worn leather hilt is a small comfort. Leaning against a tree, a short distance away is an old man. You didn't hear him approach. He moves with a quietness that is unsettling, a skill usually found in hunters or predators. His name is Bjorn, but that is just a name. In the village, they call him other things, usually in hushed whispers, when they think he cannot hear. They call him the Old Bear, the forest dweller, the one who speaks with spirits. He lives alone, in a small hut deeper in the woods, on the fringe of your society. He is one of you, but not one of them. Just like you, he is not what you would call imposing. Age has stooped his shoulders and carved deep lines into his face, a roadmap of countless seasons. But his eyes are sharpened clear, a pale, piercing blue that seems to look right through your skin and see the restless beast pacing inside you. He wears a heavy cloak made of bearskin, the fur thick and matted. It is not just a piece of clothing. He looks like a part of him. He takes a slow step towards you, his gaze never wavering. You feel it, don't you? The itch under the skin, the fire in the gut. You think it is a curse. You remain silent, your hand still resting on your knife. You have been taught to be wary of Bjorn. They say he practices the old, forbidden magic, the seer, a form of shamanism that even many followers of Odin find unnerving. The truth is, people fear what they don't understand, and they don't understand him. Or you. He stops a few feet away, leaning on a gnarled staff of dark wood. It is not a curse, he says, his voice softer now. It is a gift, a dangerous one, like a blacksmith's fire. It can forge the finest steel, or it can burn your house down. It all depends on who controls the bellows. He is talking about the feeling. He is giving it a name, a shape. He understands. The realization washes over you, loosening the knot of tension in your shoulders. You slowly take your hand away from your knife. What is it? You finally manage to ask. Your voice raspy. Bjorn smiles. The rare, cracked expression. It is the spirit of the bear, the fury of the wolf. It is the raw heart of the wild. It is the breath of Odin, the All-Father, who gives the gift of battle madness to his chosen. He taps his chest with a gnarled finger. I carry it. My father carried it before me. And now, it awakens in you. He tells you of the Berserker are the bear shirts and the elf hyena are the wolf skins. He explains they aren't just men who fight well. They are men who can let go of their human selves, who can tap into primal, animalistic fury that makes them legends on the battlefield. They are the shock troops, the vanguard, the living battering rams that break the shield walls others cannot. He speaks of it not as a mental condition, but as a sacred warrior calling. It is a powerful, seductive idea. To think of this terrifying, isolating first not as a flaw, but as a mark of divine favor. It reframes your entire existence. the subtle ostracism, the fearful glances. Maybe they aren't born of disgust. But this is a key aspect many modern interpretations miss. While we analyze the berserker phenomenon through lenses of psychology or pharmacology, for many within the culture, it was likely viewed through a spiritual framework. Being a berserker was the job you applied for. It was a destiny that chose you. Historians still debate how formalized these brotherhoods were. Were they organized warrior lodges with secret rites, or just loose collections of individuals who shared the same spiritual psychological trait? Bjorn gestures for you to follow him, turning and walking deeper into the woods. Come, the village has taught you how to be a man, how to fish, how to farm, how to build. I will teach you what they cannot. I will teach you how to be a bear. As you follow the old man's bearskin-clad back, you feel a strange mix of terror and relief. You are stepping off the known map of your life, away from the safety of the longhouse fire and into something ancient and wild. You don't know what he is going to teach you, or what rituals await you in the dark heart of the forest. All you know is that for the first time, someone has looked at the monster inside you and called it by a noble name. And for now, that is enough. You follow Bjorn deeper into the forest than you have ever gone before. The familiar sounds of the village, the blacksmith's hammer, the distant bleating of sheep fade away, replaced by the hushed whispers of the woods. The air grows cooler, thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying leaves. Sunlight struggles to pierce the dense canopy above, dappling the forest floor in an ethereal, shifting light. It feels like you have crossed an invisible boundary into another world. Bjorn moves with an eerie silence, his feet making barely a sound on the mossy ground. He seems to belong here, as much a part of the landscape as the ancient, moss-covered trees. You, on the other hand, feel clumsy and loud. Every snapped twig, every rustle of your tunic seems to echo in the profound quiet. The humming in your blood, however, feels calmer here, less like a frantic energy and more like a deep, resonant thrum. It is as if the wildness of the forest is soothing the wildness within you. After a long walk, you arrive at a small, secluded clearing. In the center is a circle of blackened stones surrounding an old fire pit. A few mossy logs are arranged around it for seating. This is clearly a place of purpose. It doesn't feel like a camp. It feels like a temple made of earth and wooden sky. Bjorn gestures for you to sit on one of the logs. He does not sit himself, but begins to pace slowly around the edge of the clearing, his gnarled staff tapping a soft, rhythmic beat on the ground. The mind is a longhouse. He begins, his voice low and sonorous. It has a door. You have been taught to keep that door barred, to keep the wild things out. But your door is already unlocked. The beast is already inside. The trick is not to fight it. The trick is to invite it to sit by your fire, to learn its name. He stops pacing and looks directly at you, his pale eyes intense. What you will learn here is not a sword trick. It is not a battle tactic. It is a journey inward, to face the thing you fear, to harness it. The ritual begins not with chanting or sacrifice, but with breath. Bjorn instructs you to close your eyes and breathe, deeply, slowly, inhaling the scent of the forest, exhaling the tension in your muscles. He guides you, his voice a steady drone, telling you to feel the earth beneath you, to feel the roots of the trees as if they were your own, drawing strength from the deep, dark soil. Then he begins to chant. It is not a language you recognize, not the old Norse you speak every day. The words are ghetto, rhythmic, ancient. They seem to vibrate in the air, in the ground, in your very bones. The sound is hypnotic, pulling your consciousness away from the here and now. This is where the psychological component comes in, the part that modern science can try to explain. What you are experiencing is a powerful form of induced trance. The rhythmic chanting, the unfamiliar environment, the authoritative presence of a figure like Bjornid is a classic recipe for altering one's state of consciousness. It is a technique used by shamans and mystics across countless cultures throughout history. The goal is to bypass the rational, thinking part of the brain and access something deeper, more primal. As the chant continues, Bjorn begins to move. He doesn't dance, not in a celebratory way. His movements are heavy, powerful, animalistic. He stoops, swinging his arms, mimicking the gait of a great bear. He snarls, the low, rumbling sound that starts deep in his chest. He is no longer an old man. He is embodying the bear spirit he spoke of, and he tells you to do the same. At first, you feel foolish. You are a young man from a fishing village, not some forest spirit, but Bjorn's voice is compelling, and the atmosphere of the clearing is thick with a strange power. Hesitantly, you rise. You try to copy his movements, feeling self-conscious and awkward. No, his voice barks, sharp and sudden. Don't act like a bear. Be the bear. Feel its weight. Feel the strength in its shoulders. Feel the hunger in its belly. He pushes you, not hard, but enough to make you stumble. The jolt breaks through your self-consciousness. The humming in your blood surges, and you let go. You stoop lower, letting your arms hang heavy. You let out a low growl, and it feels right. The sound vibrates in your own chest, a satisfying rumble. You pace the clearing, your human anxieties falling away, replaced by a simpler, more powerful set of instincts. You are not thinking about your family, or the villagers, or tomorrow's catch. You are thinking of strength, of territory, of dominance. Historians are divided on the specifics of these rituals, as they were, by nature, secret. The sagas offer only tantalizing, often exaggerated hints, but the core idea of a ritualistic transformation, using psychological techniques like chanting, dancing, and role-playing to induce an altered state, is a very plausible theory. It is a form of group hypnosis, reinforcing a shared belief system until it becomes a subjective reality for the participants. You are not just being taught to fight, you are being taught to believe, and in the chaos of a shield wall, belief can be the most powerful weapon of all. For how long this goes on, you don't know. Time seems to melt away. When Bjorn finally stops, you are breathing heavily, your body slick with sweat despite the cool air. The manic energy has subsided, replaced by a profound sense of calm and deep, aching exhaustion. You look at your hands. They still look like your hands, but for a few moments there, in the heart of the forest, they felt like paws. The days turn into a strange rhythm of two lives. By day, you are the boy from the village. You help mend the thatched roof of the longhouse. You take your turn rowing the fishing boat out into the grey waters of the fjord. You sit through the long, rambling stories of the elders. You perform normalcy. You wear it like a cloak, hoping no one sees the seams. But at intervals, sometimes in the deep twilight, sometimes in the unsettling stillness just before dawn, you slip away to the woods. You return to the secluded clearing, to Bjorn and his strange lessons. The sessions are physically and mentally grueling. The goal, you realize, is not just to tap into the inner beast, but to learn to summon it on command. One day, Bjorn hands you a shield. It is a standard round shield, made of wooden planks bound with a rim of leather, a heavy iron boss in the center. It is a two-love defense, a solid barrier between you and the world. The shield wall is the backbone of our people, Bjorn says, his voice its usual gravelly tone. It is order, it is discipline, it is brothers standing shoulder to shoulder. That you are not the wall. You are the one who breaks the wall. He looks at you, his pale eyes unblinking. The rage needs a gateway, the key to unlock the cage. For some, it is the sound of the war horn. For others, the first taste of blood. For us, he nods towards the shield. It begins here. He instructs you to hold the shield up, not in a defensive posture, but in front of your face. Now, he says calmly, bite it. You stare at him, confused. Bite it. You heard me. Bite the rim. Sink your teeth into the leather and the wood. Feel it give way. It is one of the most famous and bizarre images of the Berserker, the warrior in a frenzy, gnawing on the edge of his own shield. To an outsider, it looks like a display of mindless, animalistic rage. But here, in this quiet clearing, Bjorn presents it as a deliberate, ritual act, a focusing mechanism. You lift the shield. It smells of cured leather and pine wood, Hesitantly, you open your mouth and clamp your teeth down on the rim. The leather is tough, and the wood beneath is hard. It feels absurd. Harder. Bjorn commands. Don't just taste it. Try to break it. Let the frustration out. Let the fire in your belly rise up your throat and into your jaw. All the fear, all the confusion, all that energy you don't know what to do with, put it all into the bite. His voice, rising in intensity, acts as a catalyst. You think of the wary looks from your mother, the way the other boys fall silent when you approach. You think of the restless energy that keeps you awake at night, a feeling of being a stranger in your own skin. A surge of raw frustration rises in you. You clamp down harder. A low growl escapes your lips. You shake your head from side to side, like a dog with a bone, your teeth grinding against the rim. The leather tears slightly. You taste splinters of wood. A satisfying jolt, a minor act of destruction, shoots through you. This act, of biting the shield, is the subject of much academic debate. Some scholars suggest it was a way to intimidate enemies, a piece of psychological warfare. Others propose a more practical, if grim, theory that in the heat of battle, the warrior might suffer from bruxes a more jaw-clenching, and biting the shield was a way to manage this involuntary reflex. Then, there is the ritualistic interpretation you are now experiencing, that it is a symbolic and physical trigger, a point of no return. By marring your own defense, you are committing wholly to offense. You are symbolically destroying your own protection to become pure, unrestrained attack. There is also a fascinating, if less dramatic, linguistic possibility. The Old Norse phrase for to go berserk, berserkesking are, might have been misunderstood. Some linguists have argued that the biting the shield imagery could stem from a metaphorical expression, not a literal act. Perhaps it just meant to get ready for a fierce fight, in the same way we might say someone is champing at the bit. But for you, in this moment, it is very, very literal. You pull back, breathing heavily, saliva and a few tiny splinters in your mouth. The rim of the shield is dented, scarred by your teeth. Bjorn nods, a flicker of approval in his eyes. Good, he grunts. The door is opening. You have knocked. Now you must learn what to do when something answers. He is right. That small act of controlled violence has stoked the embers inside you. The hum is back, stronger now, more focused. It is no longer a vague, confusing feeling. It has a direction. It feels like a weapon being unsheathed. You look at the mark you made on the shield, a testament to the force you just unleashed. It is the first time you have managed to direct the storm inside you, to give it a task. It is a small, savage victory, and it is terrifying and exhilarating all at once. The training escalates. Bjorn decides you are ready to move beyond breathing exercises and shield biting. It is time, he says, to let the beast off the leash, if only for a moment. In a controlled environment, he brings another person to the clearing. He is not a boy your age, but a man, older and harder. His name is Gunnar, and he is another of Bjorn's pupils. His face is a road map of old scars, and he has a quiet, coiled intensity that makes the hairs on your arms stand up. He does not speak a word to you, just gives you a brief, assessing nod. He carries two wooden reining swords. He tosses one to you. It is heavy and awkward in your hand. Today, you will not just summon the rage, Bjorn announces, standing back to give you space. You will try to use it. Gunnar will be your opponent. Do not worry, he adds with a grim smile. He knows the dance. Your heart starts to pound. This is different. This isn't a mock battle with other village boys, a game of pushing and shoving. Gunnar moves with the deadly economy of a seasoned fighter. He circles you, his wooden sword held low, his eyes fixed on you. Forget what you know about sparring. Bjorn instructs from the edge of the clearing. Forget form, forget technique. Find the trigger, bite the shield. He doesn't give you a real shield this time, but the instruction is symbolic. You are to find that mental switch. You close your eyes for a second, trying to recall the feeling, the frustration, the surge of power. You picture the fearful faces in the village. You hear the echo of Bjorn's chants. You feel the phantom sensation of wood splintering between your teeth. When you open your eyes, The world seems different. The edges are a little blurry. The colors, the greens and browns of the forest, seem to deepen, to become more vibrant. The low hum inside you is rapidly becoming a roar, a rushing sound in your ears that drowns out the gentle rustle of leaves. Gunner lunges. It is a test, a probing attack. In a normal state, you would have tried to block it, to parry with the clumsy wooden sword. But you are not in a normal state. You don't block. You don't even think. You just react. A guttural howl tears itself from your throat, a sound you have never made before. Raw and animalistic. You charge forward, not to meet his sword, but to crash into him. The world dissolves into a red-tinged blur. This is the Berserker gang, the infamous battle fury. Your senses are both heightened and distorted. You are vaguely aware of the sting as Gunner's wooden sword connects with your arm, but it feels distant, like it is happening to someone else. There is no pain, only a dull impact. The sagas often describe berserkers as being immune to fire and steel, and while that is likely a poetic exaggeration, there is a core of truth to it. In this heightened state of adrenaline and rage, your body is flooded with endorphins, the body's natural painkillers. You genuinely don Chichester injuries in the same way. You swing your own sword wildly, with no finesse, only brute force. You are not trying to disarm him. You are trying to obliterate him. You are pure, untethered aggression. The careful, human part of your brain, the part that calculates risk and fears consequence, is gone. It has been choked aside by something ancient and savage. This is the state that made berserkers so terrifying on the battlefield. A disciplined shield wall relies on order, on men holding their position. A berserker doesn't follow those rules. He doesn't care about the integrity of the line. He is a chaos agent, a human missile aimed at the enemy's weakest point, designed to break their formation and their morale through sheer, terrifying ferocity. But what did it actually look like? Historians still debate the physical symptoms. The Norse sources, like Snorri Sturluson's on Zingling a Saga, describe a progression, first shivering and chattering teeth, then a swelling and changing of color in the face, and finally, the great rage where the warrior would howl like a wild beast and cut down everything in their path, friend and foe alike. This description has led some modern scholars to suggest a medical condition, possibly a form of self-induced epilepsy. Could be a partial explanation. You don't know about epilepsy. All you know is the reed mist. You are vaguely aware of Bjorn shouting something, his voice a distant rumble beneath the roaring in your ears. You see Gunner, no longer an opponent, but just a shape, an obstacle, and you swing and swing and swing. Suddenly, Gunner is gone. He has nimbly stepped aside, and your wild charge sends you stumbling past him and crashing into a tree. The impact is jarring. The rough bark scrapes your face. The shock of it, the solid, unyielding reality of the tree, pierces the red haze. The roar in your ears begins to subside. The world slowly swims back into focus. You are leaning against the tree, gasping for air, your limbs trembling uncontrollably. You look at Gunner. He is standing a few feet away, breathing calmly, his wooden sword held loosely at his side. He has a new bruise forming on his cheek, where one of your wild swings must have connected. He looks at you, not with anger, but with a strange kind of weary understanding. He has been where you are now. He knows what comes next. You have tasted the fury. Now you must pay the price. The raid must recedes, but it doesn't leave you in peace. It is like a monstrous wave pulling back from the shore, dragging all your strength and warmth with it, leaving behind a barren, shuddering landscape. The roaring in your ears fades, replaced by a profound, echoing silence in your head. The vibrant colors of the forest bleach out, returning to their normal, muted tones. And then comes the weakness. It is an exhaustion so complete, it feels like a physical weight pressing you down into the earth. Your limbs, which moments ago felt possessed by an inexhaustible, inhuman strength, now feel like they are made of wet sand. Your muscles, which were oiled springs of power, now ache with a deep, throbbing pain. You slide down the trunk of the tree, collapsing onto the mossy ground in a heap. Your whole body is trembling, not from cold, but from a deep, Systemic shock. Bjorn is kneeling beside you now. His usual stern expression softened by something that looks almost like pity. He offers you a water skin. Your hands are shaking so badly you can barely hold it. He has to guide it to your lips. The water is cool and clean, but it does little to quench the furnace of dehydration that is raging inside you. You feel hollowed out, scoured clean by the intensity of the experience. This is the part the glorious sagas and heroic poems tend to leave out. The Berserker gang was not a superpower you could just switch on and off. It was a transaction. You borrowed an immense amount of energy from your own body, and the debt always had to be repaid, with interest. The sagas do mention this. If you read between the lines, they speak of the warrior being feeble and weak as a babe for a day or more after the rage passed. It was a massive adrenal crash, a complete system burnout that left the warrior utterly helpless. Gunnar comes over and wordlessly helps Bjorn lift you to your feet. You can barely stand. Your legs feel disconnected from your brain, clumsy and unreliable. They half drag, half carry you to one of the logs by the fire pit and sit you down. You just slump there, your head in your hands, trying to breathe. But the physical collapse is only half of it. The psychological aftermath is worse. A thick, gray fog of what you can only describe as despair settles over your mind. The exhilarating power, the godlike rage, is gone. In its place is a profound emptiness, a sense of loss and self-disgust. You remember the howl that came out of your throat, the mindless aggression, the desire to destroy. It feels shameful, like remembering a terrible dream you cannot shake. You look at your hands, which are now scraped and bruised. You remember swinging the wooden sword, not at a training partner, but at a thing you wanted to break. You remember the brief, terrifying moment when you lost control, when the human part of you was just a helpless passenger. What if that had been real? What if you had been holding a steel axe? What if it was Gunnar, that your own brother, or a neighbor, who had gotten in your way? The thought sends a jolt of cold dread through you, a fear far more chilling than any enemy could inspire. This extreme mood swing is a well-documented side effect of states of high arousal and adrenaline. Modern soldiers sometimes report similar experiences of post-battle depression or emotional numbness. It is the brain's way of coping with an overload of stimulus and stress. But you don't have the language of modern psychology to understand it. To you, it feels like a spiritual sickness, a darkness that follows the light. Bjorn puts a heavy hand on your shoulder. This is the price, he says, his voice quiet. Every warrior must pay it. The fire gives great heat, but it leaves behind only ash. You must learn to live with the ashes. The apathetic state could last for days. During this time, a berserker was worse than useless in a fight. He was a liability. This is a crucial, practical detail that is often overlooked. A Viking commander could not just rely on a unit of berserkers for every battle. He would have to deploy them strategically, knowing they would be completely out of commission afterward. They were not a standing army. They were a single-use, biological weapon. As you sit there, shivering in the aftermath, you understand the true nature of the berserker's curse. It is not just the terrifying power. It is the crushing weakness that follows. It is the knowledge that the beast inside you, once unleashed, leaves you broken and vulnerable in its wake. This is not a gift of the gods you can wield at will. It is a volatile, dangerous pact, and the cost of its power is a piece of your own humanity. It takes 2 full days before the deep, bone-aching weakness begins to lift. 2 days of feeling like a ghost in your own body, moving through the motions of your village life in a slow, gray haze. You eat without tasting. You work without feeling the strain in your muscles. You listen to conversations without truly hearing the words. The world feels like it is happening behind a thick pane of glass. When your strength finally returns, you carry the memory of the experience like a heavy stone in your gut. It is a secret that isolates you more profoundly than ever before. You walk back into the heart of the village, towards the longhouse, and the familiar sights and sounds now seem alien. You see your father, mending a fishing net by the door. He is humming a tuneless song, his gnarled fingers working the shuttle with practiced ease. He looks up as you approach, and his humming stops. He gives you a long, searching look. He does not ask where you have been. He does not ask why you look so pale. He does not need to. He can see the change in you. It is in the way you hold your shoulders, in the way your eyes no longer meet his. He sees the shadow of the forest clinging to you. He sighs, a quiet, weary sound, and goes back to his net. The silence between you is vast and unbridgeable. You step inside the longhouse. The air is warm and thick with the smell of cooking stew. Your mother is at the loom, her back to you, the rhythmic clack-clack of the shuttle filling the space. Your younger sister is playing near the fire with dolls made of bundled wool. She looks up, sees you, and her smile falters. She doesn't run away, but she subtly shifts, putting a wooden chest between herself and you. A small, almost unconscious act of creating a barrier. Your mother turns, hearing the change in the atmosphere. She looks at you, and her face is a mask of strained composure. She wants to see her son, the boy she raised, but she sees something else looking out from behind your eyes, something wild and untamed. She forces a smile, asks if you are hungry, but her voice is tight. Her love for you is now angled with a deep, primal fear. How do you care for a son who is also a predator? This is the social cost of being a berserker. In the heat of battle, you are a revered hero, a tide-turning force of nature. But back home, in the quiet rhythms of daily life, you are a problem. You are a source of anxiety. The same power that makes you valuable in war makes you a danger in peace. You are a tool that cannot be safely put away, a sword that is never fully sheathed. You are ostracized, but in a particularly painful way. It is not overt. No one shouts insults or throws stones. It is an ostracism of whispers, of averted gazes, of conversations that stop when you enter a room. It is the way the other young men fall silent when you join them on the beach to haul in the boats. They were your friends. You grew up wrestling and racing with them. Now, there is a space around you that no one wants to cross. They don't know the details of your training with Bjorn, but they can sense the change. They can smell the wolf on you. This social alienation is a key part of the berserker's reality. While some might have been part of a king's personal guard, enjoying a degree of prestige, the average berserker living in a small, tight-knit community was likely a figure of fear and suspicion. This fear was not unfounded. The sagas contained stories of berserkers who, in their rage, killed their own men or went on destructive rampages in peacetime. Agel's saga, for example, tells of berserkers who challenge respectable farmers to duels, or home gained, to try and steal their land or their wives. They were seen as bullies and thugs, abusing their fearsome reputation. There is a historical debate here. Were berserkers a recognized class of elite warriors, or were they often just social deviants and criminals, using the berserker mythos as a cover for their violent behavior? The truth is likely somewhere in between. Like any group, it probably had its honored champions and its dishonorable thugs. One afternoon, you see two children playing near the fjord. One of them picks up a stick and starts howling, puffing out his chest and pretending to be a great warrior. The other child laughs and runs away, shrieking in mock terror. They are playing a game. They are playing berserker. You are a monster in a children's game. The realization hits you with the force of a physical blow. You are no longer just you. You are a symbol, a legend, a nightmare. The boys you once played with now use your new identity as a shield in their social rivalries. The girls who once smiled at you now look down when you pass. The elders who once told you stories now watch you with wary, calculating eyes. You retreat to the edge of the village, looking out at the cold, gray water. The loneliness is a physical ache in your chest. Bjorn is teaching you to control the beast within, but no one can teach you how to live with the consequences. You have gained a terrible power, but you have lost something infinitely more precious. The simple, comforting feeling of belonging. The whispers in the village are not just about you. They are about how men like you find their fury. As you spend more time in the strange, secretive world of Bjorn and Gunnar, you begin to hear the stories, the theories, the rumors that circulate among the Brotherhood. One of the most persistent and most controversial is the legend of a mushroom, One evening, sitting around the low burning fire in the forest clearing, Gunnar speaks of it. He is a man of few words, so when he does talk, you listen. He tells of warriors in the olden days, before even Bjorn's time, who knew secrets of the deep woods. They knew of a special fungus that could help a man unlock the gates of his mind. He describes a mushroom with a bright red cap, speckled with white warts, the Amanita muscaria, or fly agaric, the iconic toadstool of fairy tales and folklore. He says that if prepared correctly, a small amount could help a warrior cast off the shackles of fear and pain, opening the door to the battle frenzy. The idea is both fascinating and repellent. Could the divine fury of Odin's chosen warriors really be unlocked by eating a mushroom? It seems too simple, too mundane. Yet, the story persists. This is one of the most popular and enduring theories about the source of the Berserker Age, first proposed in the 18th century. The theory suggests that the Berserkers ingested hallucinogenic mushrooms to induce their state. The fly agaric mushroom contains psychoactive compounds, ibotenic acid and muscicle, which can cause agitation, distorted perception, muscle twitching, and a reduced sensation of pain symptoms that seem to match some of the saga descriptions. Bjorn, who has been listening silently, scoffs into the fire. "The shortcut," he grunts, his voice full of disdain, a crutch for those who are too weak to find the beast within themselves. The mushroom can open a door, yes, but it is not your door. You do not control it. It controls you. The fury it gives is shallow, brittle. It is a false fire that consumes the user. His dismissal highlights the central conflict in this theory. While the mushroom's effects are tantalizingly similar to the descriptions, there are also major inconsistencies. The fly agaric often causes severe nausea, vomiting, and lethargy, not exactly prime conditions for fighting. Furthermore, none of the primary Norse sources, the sagas or poems, ever mention mushrooms in connection with berserkers. It is a compelling idea, but one built entirely on circumstantial evidence and later speculation. And so, the academic world remains sharply divided. Is the mushroom theory a brilliant piece of ethnobotanic deduction, or is it just a modern fantasy, an attempt to rationalize a behavior we don't understand? The debate rages on, with no definitive proof either way. Gunnar continues, telling you how the mushroom would be prepared. It was said that eating it raw was too dangerous, the poisons too strong. Some legends claimed it had to be dried. Others spoke of a stranger, more bizarre method of consumption. The active chemicals are not fully metabolized by the body and are excreted in the urine. The theory goes that one person would consume the mushroom, and others would then drink their urine to receive a purer, less poisonous dose of the psychoactive compounds. This practice, known as urine drinking for ritualistic purposes, has been documented in some Siberian shamanic traditions, which has led some scholars to draw a parallel. The thought of it makes your stomach turn. It is a grotesque image, a far cry from the noble, spiritual journey Bjorn describes. The true power, Bjorn says, leaning forward, the firelight catching his intense eyes, comes from here. He taps his chest, and here, he taps his head. It is blood and will, spirit and discipline. It is years of facing the fear inside you, not an afternoon of chasing colorful visions from a fungus. Do not mistake a poison for a gift. You look from Bjorn's stern, certain face to Gunnar scarred. Impassive one, Gunnar doesn't argue. He just shrugs, as if to say, it is one of many stories. You are left in the middle, caught between the sacred and the profane. Is your condition a spiritual calling, a gift from the gods that must be honed through ritual and mental discipline? Or is it a chemical reaction, a neurological trick that can be sparked by ingesting a plant? The uncertainty is unsettling. It adds another layer of confusion to your identity. What are you? Really? A holy warrior? A man with a psychological disorder? Or just someone susceptible to the right kind of poison? You look into the flickering flames of the fire, and for the first time, you consider the possibility that even Bjorn, your wise and powerful mentor, might not have all the answers. The mystery of what you are seems to deepen with every secret you uncover. The isolation from your village life, the grueling nature of the training, and the shared, secret knowledge of your condition forges a new kind of family. It is not the family of the Longhouse, born of blood and shared meals. It is a brotherhood of outcasts, forged in the forest clearing around a smoky fire. There are others besides you on Gunner. They come and go, slipping into the woods from different villages, drawn to Bjorn's strange wisdom. There is Leif, a giant of a man with a surprisingly gentle voice, who seems to be in a constant state of melancholy after his rages. There is Torsten, small and weary, whose fury is sharp and quick, like a cornered weasel. Each man carries the same burden, but it wears on him differently. In the Longhouse, you are an object of fear and suspicion. Your silence is seen as brooding, your presence a source of tension. But here, in the clearing, you are understood. You can sit for an hour without speaking, and no one finds it strange. They know the gray fog that can descend after the fury. They know the internal struggle. You can speak of the humming in your blood, and they will nod in recognition, not shrink away in fear. This is your new tribe, your only tribe. You share stories, not of glorious battles, but of the aftermath. Leif quietly admits that during his last episode, he shattered his own axe handle by gripping it too tightly, leaving him unarmed. Torsten confesses to a moment of terrifying confusion where he couldn't distinguish the battle cries of his own side from the enemy's. You, in turn, speak of the profound loneliness, the feeling of being a stranger to your own family. These are not confessions of weakness. They are a mapping of shared territory. This sense of a shared identity was likely crucial for the survival of individuals with this condition. The warrior lodge, or brotherhood, would have provided a vital support system. It was a place where their unique psychological state was not just accepted, but valued and given a name and purpose. They transformed a potentially alienating personal flaw into a collective, sacred identity. The bonds you form are not built on cheerful camaraderie, but on a grim, mutual respect. You are all, in your own way, broken. You are all living with a dangerous internal fire. You learn to read each other's states not through words, but through subtle cues. The clenching of a jaw, the distant look in an eye, the slight tremor in a hand. These are the signals that one of you is struggling with the beast, and the others instinctively know to give him space or offer a quiet, steadying presence. One evening, Bjorn is teaching you not about rage, but about control. He has you all sitting in a circle, holding a small, smooth stone from the riverbed. The fury is a flood, he says, his voice a low rumble. It wants to sweep everything away, but even a flood has banks. You must build the banks. After the fire, there is the ash. After the storm, there is the quiet. You must learn to find the quiet within yourself, even when the storm is raging. He guides you through a meditation, a practice of focus completely opposite to the chaotic energy of the Berserker gang. He tells you to focus on the stone in your hand, its coolness, its weight, its texture. He tells you to pour all your awareness into that single point of contact, to make it an anchor in the turbulent sea of your mind. It is incredibly difficult. Your mind, so used to the loud roar of the rage, rebels against the quiet. It wants to wander, to worry, to fight, but slowly, painstakingly, you learn to find a small, still point in the center of your own internal chaos. The existence of such formal training is, of course, a matter of historical speculation. The sagas don't give us a training manual for berserkers, but it is a logical necessity to be an effective weapon, and not just a suicidal maniac. A berserker would have needed some method of both inducing and, crucially, ending their state. Rituals, meditation, and psychological anchors. Learn it within a brotherhood. Provide a plausible framework for how this might have been achieved. It suggests a level of discipline and self-awareness that contradicts the popular image of a mindless brute. One of the hardest, most debated aspects of this is the berserker's gaze. Some accounts describe them as having a strange, fixed, and intense stare. Was this a symptom of their trance state, or was it a learned technique, a part of the performance of being a berserker, designed to intimidate? Sitting here among your brothers, you realize it might be both. You see it in Gunner's eyes, sometimes a look that seems to be focused on something far away, a chilling stillness that precedes his internal storm. You look around the fire at the faces of these men weave. Torsten, Gunner, they are scarred, haunted, and profoundly dangerous. But they are also the only people in the world who don't look at you like you are a monster. In their company, you are not an outcast. You are a brother. This clearing in the woods has become your true longhouse. This circle of broken men your true family. It is a grim and perilous belonging, but it is the only one you have. As you delve deeper into the teachings of the Brotherhood, the way you understand your power begins to shift. Bjorn speaks less of a beast or a fury and more of a spirit. He encourages you not to see it as a part of yourself, but as something separate, an entity that you invite in. He tells you ancient stories, not the heroic tales of Thor and his hammer, the darker, older stories of the deep woods and the spirits that inhabit them. He speaks of the great bear, an animal revered for its immense strength and fierce, protective nature. He says that the bear is not just an animal of flesh and blood, but a powerful spirit, an echo of a time when the lines between man and beast were blurred. You do not become an animal, Bjorn explains one evening, his voice taking on the quality of a storyteller. That is a child's understanding. You open your body and soul to be a vessel. You let the spirit of the bear ride with you into battle. Its strength becomes your strength. Its ferocity becomes your ferocity. You are the host for a mighty guest. This is a profound reframing of your experience. The rage is no longer a flaw in your personality or a psychological disorder. It is a form of divine possession, a shamanic transformation. The idea is terrifying, but also strangely comforting. It means the mindless, destructive acts you commit in your frenzy are not truly your acts. You are not responsible, not in the same way. You are simply the vehicle for a powerful, primal force. This concept of animal spirit possession is central to many shamanic traditions around the world, particularly in circumpolar cultures like the Sami people, who were neighbors to the Norse. The idea that a warrior could channel an animal spirit to gain its attributes in battle is a recurring motif. You are not just a bear-shirt berserker because you wear a bearskin cloak. You are a bear shirt because you can, in a spiritual sense, become the bear. You start to see signs of it everywhere. You notice how Gunner moves with a heavy, grounded power, like a bear rising on its hind legs. You see how Torsten's sharp, darting glances mimic those of a cornered wolf, and you begin to feel it in yourself. When you perform the rituals, when you let the rage begin to build, you start to feel a presence, a second consciousness overlapping with your own. It feels ancient, powerful, and utterly devoid of human concerns like fear or mercy. Of course, whether this was a genuine, deeply held religious belief or simply a psychological metaphor is impossible for future historians to know for certain. The Norse worldview was one where the spiritual and physical worlds were deeply intertwined. Gods, spirits, elves, and dwarves were not just stories. They were active participants in the world. So, for you, the idea of a bear spirit entering your body is not a metaphor. It is a literal truth. This belief system has practical benefits. It provides a framework for understanding and controlling the experience. If you are inviting a spirit in, then you can also learn rituals to respectfully ask it to leave. It creates a psychological distance between your normal self and your enraged self, which can help you cope with the guilt and trauma of your actions in battle. It is a powerful coping mechanism. Bjorn teaches you a new ritual. Before the training combat, you no longer just focus on frustration and anger. You stand before a large, ancient oak, a tree considered sacred to Thor, and you formally call upon the bear spirit. You speak to it, offering your body as its vessel in exchange for its strength. And after the rage has passed, during the horrible, empty aftermath, you perform another ritual. You thank the spirit for its aid and formally release it, marking a boundary between its time and your own. There is a fascinating and somewhat bizarre archaeological find that might hint at this belief. In 2011, in Denmark, the grave of a high-status Viking warrior was discovered. Buried with him was a full set of weapons. As expected, but he was also buried with a massive bear skin laid over him as if he were wearing it. Even more strangely, the bear's claws had been left attached to the hide. Was this man a berserker, buried with the symbol of his spirit animal, the vessel for his power? It is a tantalizing possibility that adds a layer of physical evidence to the spiritual theory. As you embrace this new understanding, the experience of the berserker gang changes. It feels less like losing control and more like relinquishing it to a trusted, if terrifying, partner. The red mist is still there. The mindless destruction is still there. But your perception of it is different. You are the ship, and the bear spirit is the storm that fills your sails. You are no longer just a man losing his mind. You are a man communing with a god. And this belief, more than any physical training, is what prepares you for the true crucible of the shield wall. The call comes on a gray, overcast morning. A runner arrives at the village, breath loosened, mud splattered. He brings a message from the local jarl, the chieftain to whom your village owes allegiance. A rival clan from across the fjord has raided a coastal settlement, and the jarl is mustering his forces to retaliate. Every able-bodied man is expected to answer the call. A strange mood settles over the village. It is a mixture of grim determination, nervous excitement, and a heavy sense of dread. The fishermen pull their long ships onto the shore, not for mending, but for fitting out with shields and supplies. The blacksmith's hammer rings day and night, not making plowshares, but sharpening axes and spearheads. Women gather at the longhouse fire, their faces tight with worry as they pack dried fish and hard bread for their husbands and sons. For you, the feeling is different. The low hum in your blood, which has been a source of anxiety and confusion, now has a clear and terrifying purpose. This is what the training was for. This is the reason for the secret rituals in the forest, the painful aftermaths, the social isolation. The tool is about to be put to its intended use. You find your brothers from the forest gathering near the edge of the village, away from the main hustle and bustle. Bjorn is there, not as a warrior, but as a spiritual guide. He will not be going with you. His time for battle is long past. He moves among you, a quiet, steadying presence. There is no boisterous shouting or bragging here, none of the nervous bravado you see among the other young warriors who are checking the edges of their new axes. The mood among your small group is somber, almost unnerving calm. It is the quiet at the center of a hurricane. You are all looking inward, preparing yourselves for the ritual of letting the storm out. Leif is meticulously cleaning a small bone carving of a bear. Torsten is sharpening his knives with a slow, hypnotic rhythm. Gunnar is just staring out at the water, his face a stony mask. You find yourself doing the same, focusing on your breathing, trying to find that still point Bjorn taught you to cultivate. This pre-battle state is another fascinating aspect that is often overlooked. The berserker is imagined as being in a constant state of simmering rage, but the reality was likely the opposite. To consciously enter such an extreme state requires immense mental preparation. The process probably involved a period of intense focus, meditation, or ritual to build up the necessary psychological energy. It is not an explosion out of nowhere, but a controlled demolition. Your father finds you there. He carries your shield, the one you scarred with your own teeth, and a heavy, bearded axe, its wooden haft worn smooth from his own years of use. He does not come into the small circle of your brotherhood, but stands at its edge. He holds out the axe and shield. This was your grandfather's, he says, his voice rough. He doesn't look at you, but at the axe head, tracing the patterns in the steel with his thumb. It has served our family well. May it serve you. It is the closest he has come to acknowledging what you are. He is not just giving you a weapon. He is passing on a legacy, accepting, in this moment of crisis, the violent purpose you now have. You take the gear from him. Your hands touch for a brief second. His are calloused and steady. Yours are trembling slightly. As the men begin to board the long ship, a priest of Thor walks along the shore, chanting and sprinkling the ship's prow with the blood of a sacrificed goat, asking for the gods' favor and strong winds. Your people's religion is a part of everyday life, a public and communal affair. But your ritual is private. Bjorn gathers you and your brothers one last time. He doesn't offer words of encouragement. He gives you a final, grim warning. Remember the vessel. Remember the guest. He says, his voice low and intense. The spirit you invite is not your friend. It does not know friend from foe. It knows only blood and rage. Point it at the enemy, and when the work is done, send it home. Do not let it linger at you fire. This warning about the indiscriminate nature of the rage is a recurring theme in the sagas. There are numerous accounts of berserkers accidentally killing their own comrades in the fog of their fury. This made them a double-edged sword for any commander. They could break an enemy line, but they could also cause devastating friendly fire incidents if not carefully managed or if their rage wasn't brought down in time. There is a strange, almost comical, story in one saga about a berserker whose friends had to knock him out with a giant log after a battle because he couldn't calm down. You take your place in the longship. It is crowded, smelling of tar, mud, and nervous sweat. You sit beside gunner, your shield propped against the side, the axe resting across your knees. The other warriors are talking, laughing, making jokes to chase away the fear. But you and your brothers are silent, islands of stillness in a sea of nervous energy. You are already beginning the journey inward. The shore recedes, the longhouse shrinks in the distance, and the rhythmic creak of the oars becomes the heartbeat of the voyage, pulling you closer and closer to the place where the beast will be unleashed. The journey across the fjord is cold and wet. A miserable drizzle starts to fall, slicking the oars and chilling you to the bone. The sea is a choppy, unforgiving gray, and the mood on the longship's sobers as the adrenaline of departure gives way to the grim reality of the task ahead. You and your brothers remain a quiet knot of intensity amidst the other warriors. You are not looking at the waves or the shoreline. You are conserving energy, preparing your minds. This isn't just a boat ride for you. It is the final, silent stage of your ritual. When you finally beach the longship on the enemy shore, the chaos begins instantly. The landing is contested. A volley of arrows whistles down from the low dunes above the beach. One thuds into the shield of the man next to you. The sound is a dull, sickening thump, the war horn sound, a deep, guttural braying that vibrates in your chest, and they're shouting, screaming commands. This is it, the moment of truth. The general, a huge man with a braided red beard, bellows the order, shield war, advance. The warriors around you scramble into formation, locking their round shields together to form a solid, overlapping barrier. It is a human fortress, a slow-moving wall of wood and steel. This is the standard, time-honored tactic of Viking warfare. It is about discipline, cohesion, and mutual protection. But you and your small brotherhood Leif, Gunnar, Torsten, and a few others do not join the wall. You stand behind it, a separate, menacing unit. This is your designated role. You are not the wall. You are the hammer. Your Jarl knows the value and the danger you represent. A good commander used his berserkers tactically. They were often held in reserve, then unleashed at a critical moment to punch a hole in the enemy's defenses, creating an opening for the main force to exploit. To send you in first would be a waste. To send you in with the main line would be to risk chaos among your own men. You are a special weapon, and your deployment is a strategic decision. The two shield walls grind towards each other on the wet's end. The noise is deafening, the roar of the horns, the shouting of war cries, the pounding of weapons against shields to intimidate the foe. You see the enemy line now, a solid wall, just like your own, bristling with spears. You begin the final transformation. You lift your shield and, with a guttural snarl, sink your teeth into the rim. The familiar taste of leather and wood, the satisfying splintering sensation, acts as the key in the lock. You feel the surge, the hot wave of energy flooding your system. Around you, your brothers are doing the same. Leif lets out a low, moaning howl. Torsten is shaking, his teeth chattering violently, just as the old sagas described. The world starts to narrow. The sounds of the battle, the individual shouts and screams, merge into a single, overwhelming roar. The colors begin to deepen, the edges of your vision blurring into a tunnel. The fear you felt moments ago is gone, burned away by the rising fire. Then comes the order you have been waiting for. The Jarl, seeing the two walls about to meet, turns to you and screams a single word. No, there is no complex command. There is no strategy. There is only the release. You charge. You don't run around the shield wall. You run straight through the gaps in your own line. The warriors instinctively part to let you and your brothers pass. Their face is a mixture of awe and terror. They know what is coming. You hit the enemy shield wall not as a soldier, but as a projectile. You don't try to find a weak spot. You are the weak spot creator. You leap at the wall, your axe held high. You don't aim for a man. You aim for the shields themselves. Your axe comes down not with precision, but with pure brute force, splintering the wood of a shield. The man holding it tumbles back, his defense shattered, his face a mask of shock. In that instant, the integrity of their wall is broken and opening, just for a second. That is all it takes. This was the Berserker's primary function, to be a line breaker. Their sheer ferocity and apparent disregard for their own safety was a psychological weapon as much as a physical one. A disciplined soldier expects a certain rhythm to battle, a push, a probe, a retreat. They don't expect a howling, shield-biting madman to throw himself bodily onto their spears just to create a gap. It was terrifying, unpredictable, and incredibly effective at sowing panic and confusion. What did this look like from the other side? A famous piece of historical evidence, the Lewis chessman, might give us a clue. These Viking chess pieces, found in Scotland, include figures of warders or rooks depicted as warriors. One of them is shown in a frenzy, biting down on the edge of his shield. It is an iconic, frozen image of the Berserker gang, immortalized in walrus ivory. It shows that this image was so powerful and recognizable that it became a symbol of a fearsome warrior. You are now inside their formation. A wolf loosed in a sheep pen. The structured battle of shield walls has dissolved into a chaotic melee around you. You are no longer thinking. You are only the spirit of the bear, a vessel of pure rage, swinging, smashing, destroying everything in the red-tinted blur of your vision. The world is a kaleidoscope of reed mist and disconnected, violent images. Time loses all meaning. There is no past, no future, only a searing, eternal now. Your memory of the battle will not be a coherent narrative, but a series of fragmented, dreamlike snapshots, like lightning flashes in a storm. You remember the jarring shock that travels up your arm as your axe bites deep into a wooden shield, the wood groaning and splintering. You remember the sensation, but not the specific sight. You remember a face in front of you, young, bearded, eyes wide with terror. The face is there one moment, and then it is gone, replaced by a splash of something warm and coppery smelling. You don't register it as a human being you have harmed. It is just an obstacle that has been removed. You remember the sound of your own voice, but it doesn't sound like you. It is a continuous, bestial roar that comes from deep in your chest, a sound that is part of the general cacophony of the battle. You are screaming, but you are not screaming words. You are screaming pure, undiluted rage. This fragmented, hazy memory of the event is a common feature of experiences involving extreme adrenaline and trauma. The brain, overwhelmed by sensory input and life or death stress, doesn't form memories in its usual, linear way. Instead, it captures these intense flashbulb moments, often without the connecting emotional or chronological context. This is why many people who experience traumatic events report having a spotty or disjointed recollection of what happened. For you, in this state, the higher-level processing parts of your brain are essentially offline. You are running on pure, primal instinct. You feel impacts on your body. A spear point scrapes along your ribs, tearing your tunic and skin. But you don't feel pain. It is a distant, dull pressure, like someone prodding you with a stick. You register the event your body has been struck, but the associated agony is completely absent, masked by the flood of endorphins and the all-consuming focus of your rage. This is the immunity to steel the sagas spoke of. It wasn't magic. It was a temporary, terrifying, and powerful quirk of human biology under extreme duress. One of the historical debates is whether this state was truly indiscriminate. Fearness warning echoes in the rational corner of your mind that is now buried deep down. It does not know friend from foe. While berserkers were deployed against the enemy, the risk of them turning on their own side was real. The sagas are full of such incidents. Was this an unavoidable side effect of the frenzy, or a sign of an inexperienced or poorly trained berserker who couldn't manage their spirit guest? The academic jury is still out. A bizarre and little-known detail from some folklore suggests methods for curing or calming a berserker after a battle. These weren't gentle, reassuring talks. They were drastic measures. One method involved trapping the berserker and throwing them into icy water. Another spoke of locking them in a very hot steam bath, a precursor to the sauna to sweat out the madness. These cures sound more like shock treatments, designed to jolt the warrior's system out of the extreme fight or flight response and back to some semblance of normalcy. You vaguely register other shapes of fury moving in the chaos with you. You see a massive form, which you dimly recognize as Leaf, lift a man clean off his feet and throw him into two of his comrades, scattering them like pins. You see the blur of Torsten, a whirlwind of motion, darting in and out of the fray with two short axes. A terrifying dance of death. You are not fighting as a team in any coordinated sense, but you are a unified force of chaos. Each of you a nucleus of destruction that dissolves the enemy's order. Your axe gets stuck. It is wedged in the shield boss of a fallen enemy. You pull, but it won't come free. Frustration, tear and white hot, surges through you. You abandon the axe. You don't need it. You lunge forward, grabbing the edge of another man's shield, pulling it aside with raw strength, and slam your own shield boss into his face. You feel the crunch of bone through the wooden iron. There is no honor here, no glory, no heroic duel. This is not the stuff of scowled, icy poems sung in mead halls. This is ugly, brutal, and intimate work. It is the grim, bloody engine that drives the heroic stories. You are not a hero. You are a weather event, a human storm, and all you know is the breaking of things. In the depths of the red mist, something goes wrong. The battle has devolved into a swirling, chaotic scrum. The neat lines of the shield walls are a distant memory. It is now a messy series of individual struggles, man against man. In the mud and blood of the shoreline, your berserker brethren have done their job perfectly. They have shattered the enemy's cohesion, and your own warriors have poured into the gaps. You are a whirlwind of destruction at the heart of it, moving on pure instinct. You see a shape before you, a warrior raising an axe. You react without thought, bringing your own shield up to block. While simultaneously lunging forward, you crash into the figure, ready to smash, to break, to end. But as you collide, something cuts through the haze. A flash of familiarity. The intricate carving on the leather strap of the shield. The specific shade of reed in the man's braided beard. It is your Jarl, the man who gave the order to attack. You freeze. For a fraction of a second, your forward momentum is already committed, and you slam into him, sending you both stumbling. Your arm, which was raised to deliver a crushing blow with the edge of your shield, stops midair. The bare spirit inside you screams for destruction. It sees only an armed figure, an obstacle bits and small, buried piece of your human self, your loyalty, your identity as one of the Jarl, this man, has caught the reins just in time. The Jarl, a hardened veteran, recovers instantly. He sees the wild, unfocused look in your eyes, the spittle on your lips. He doesn't see one of his loyal warriors. He sees a rabid dog that has slipped its leash. He shoves you back, hard, putting distance between you. His face a mask of anger and alarm. Get back in the fight, you mad dog, he bellows, his voice cutting through your inner turmoil. He is not speaking to you, the person. He is shouting at the phenomenon. The moment is terrifying. It is the first time you have truly felt the terrifying knife edge on which you live. The rage is not a precision weapon. It is an area of effect attack. It primes you to destroy the nearest threat, and in the chaos of battle, the nearest threat could easily be the man fighting beside you. This is the berserker's greatest liability and the source of the deepest fear and mistrust from their own communities. The sagas are replete with cautionary tales. The famous story of Egelskal Agrim Sson, a complex character who was both a renowned poet and a feared berserker, contains an episode where, after battle, he is still so full of rage that he starts menacing his own host and friend. His friend has to trick him into a drinking contest with a horn that has a hole in the bottom, keeping him occupied until the rage subsides. It is played for laughs, but the underlying danger is deadly serious. Historians debate whether this indiscriminate fury was an accepted, calculated risk, or a sign of a failing. Was a good berserker one who could, even in his rage, somehow distinguish friend from foe? Or was the complete loss of control the entire point? The sources are ambiguous, suggesting both possibilities. It might have varied from individual to individual. Perhaps some, like Gunnar, had more experience and could ride the wave better, while you, a novice, are still in danger of being drowned by it. The near miss with your jarl shakes you, the red mist in your vision flickers, and for a moment, the brutal reality of your surroundings slams back into you. You see the carnage clearly, the dead and dying on the sand. You see your own people, fighting and falling. The sight is horrifying. The human part of you is so overwhelmed with shock and disgust that it gives the bare spirit an opening to surge back, to flood your senses with its simplifying, brutal clarity. The red mist descends again, perhaps even thicker this time, a merciful blanket over a reality too terrible to comprehend. You turn away from the jarl, the brief moment of recognition forgotten, and plunge back into the fight. But a seed of deep, chilling terror has been planted. The beast you carry is not your servant. It is not your partner. It is a blind, deaf, and ravenous god, and you are chained to its altar. You have now seen, with your own eyes, how easily it could devour you and everyone you are sworn to protect. The victory on this beach, if it comes, will be ashes in your mouth. The battle ends, as most do, not with a heroic final stand, but with a ragged, ugly petering out. The enemy, their shield wall broken and their morale shattered by the ferocity of your initial charge, finally breaks and flees. Some run for the woods, others try to shove their own boats into the water. Your side is too exhausted to give much of a chase. The fighting dwindles to a few last, desperate skirmishes. Victory. The surviving warriors slump to the ground, lean on their shields, or simply stand, dazed, amidst the wreckage of the fight. The air, which moments ago was filled with the cacophony of war, is now filled with a different soundscape. The groans of the wounded, the distant sound of the waves washing the shore, and the cawing of gulls already circling overhead. The elation of victory is a wave that washes over the army, but it doesn't touch you. As the last of the raid mist recedes, it leaves you stranded in the cold, harsh reality of the aftermath. The berserker rage, your single, terrible purpose, is gone, and you are left to face the consequences. The first thing that hits you is the exhaustion, the familiar, soul-crushing weakness. You stumble away from the carnage, your legs barely holding you, and collapse behind a low dune, hidden from the main group. Your body trembles uncontrollably. Every muscle screams in protest. You look down at yourself. You are covered in mud, sand, and the blood of others. You have a long, shallow gash along your ribs that you barely remember receiving. Now, it stings with a vengeance. The endorphin dam has broken, and a flood of pain, delayed but potent, washes through you. Slowly, your brothers from the forest find their way to this same secluded spot. Gunnar arrives first, his face gray and slick with sweat. He doesn't speak, just sits heavily on the sand, his head in his hands. Then comes Leaf, his big body racked with shudders. Here etches, bringing up nothing but bile. Torsten is the last, looking small and broken, his wild energy completely spent. You are a brotherhood of broken weapons. Your terrible duty done, while the other warriors celebrate. You and your kind are quarantined by your own condition. The victory feast will happen later, back at the Jor LS Hall. There will be roasting meat, overflowing horns of mead, and the triumphant retelling of the battle's events. The skilled the poets, will compose verses celebrating the heroes of the day. But you know you will not be at the center of that celebration. You will be at the edge, at a separate table, perhaps, or maybe just sitting by the fire, watching from a distance. This was a common arrangement. The berserkers, still unpredictable and perhaps psychologically unstable after their frenzy, were oft unseparated from the main victory celebration. It was part fear, part respect, and part practical safety measure. You don't want a man prone to violent mood swings in the middle of a drunken, armed party. This separation is one of the great ironies of your existence. You are the key to the victory, the tip of the spear. The stories they will tell tonight will feature your terrifying deeds. They will speak in awe of the bare shirts who broke the shield wall, but they will speak of you as if you are a force of nature, not as men. They will celebrate the storm, but they will not invite the lightning to sit at their table. There is a strange, almost sad piece of archaeological evidence for this. In some Viking warrior graves, archaeologists have found that the deceased's teeth were filed down, with horizontal grooves cut into them. It is a bizarre form of body modification we don't fully understand. One theory is that this was a mark of a certain warrior class. Was it a way for a berserker to identify himself, even in death, or perhaps to make the act of shield biting look even more terrifying? Historians are still puzzling over this, but it points to a distinct identity, a group that set itself apart, or was set apart, from the norm. You huddle together by the dune, a small, miserable group. You share a water skin, passing it in silence. There are no congratulations, no boasts of kills. There is only the shared, grim knowledge of what you have done, what you have become. You remember the Jarl's face, the flash of fear and anger in his eyes when you almost lost control. That memory is more painful than the gash on your ribs. Later, as the sun begins to set, casting a golden light over the gruesome beach, you see the other warriors moving about, tending to the wounded, gathering the spoils of war. They are laughing, their spirits high. They are a community, bound together by a shared victory. You look at the faces of your brothers, Dunner, Leif, Thorsten. They are your community. This small, silent circle of exhausted, haunted men. You are bound together not by victory, but by the terrible price you all paid for it. The warmth of the celebratory bonfire will reach you later, but it will not warm you. You are forever destined to sit just outside the circle of its light, alone together in the cold. You return not as heroes, but as dangerous implements being carefully put back into storage. The journey home is a quiet, somber affair. The victory celebrations at the Jarl's hall are exactly as you predicted, while the main hall rings with laughter, boasts, and the songs of the Skelders. You and your berserker brethren are seated at a trestle table in a drafty side chamber, close enough to hear the revelry, but not to be part of it. Mead is brought to you, but your presence is a heavy, unspoken thing. You are the specters at the feast, the grim reality of the violence that paid for all this joy. In the days that follow, the Jarl summons you. You go to his longhouse, expecting a reprimand for your near disaster on the battlefield. Instead, he offers you a place in his personal guard, his HIR. You are a mad dog, the Jarl says, looking at you with a new, calculating expression. He is sitting on his high seat, a massive man who seems to fill the space around him. But you are my mad dog. Better to have you on my leash than running wild in the woods. It is not a compliment, but it is an offer of status and security. The HIR are the Jarl's household troops, his elite bodyguard. They live in his hall, eat at his table, the main table, this time, and receive gifts of silver and fine weapons. It is a position of immense honor. For a boy from a small fishing village, it is a life-changing opportunity. You accept. What other choice do you have? You can no longer fit into the quiet life of your village. Your place is now beside the powerful, as a weapon to be wielded. You become one of the king's special dogs, a term that sounds derogatory but hints at a specific valued role. The most famous example of this is the legendary King Harald Fairhair of Norway, who was said to have used berserkers as his shock troops and personal guard. According to the sagas, they were Odin's men who went into battle without armor, as mad dogs or wolves. Being part of this elite group gave you protection, purpose, and a place where your unique condition was an asset, not a liability. Life in the Jar LS Hall is a strange mix of privilege and paranoia. You are respected for your battlefield prowess. Other warriors give you a wide berth. You are well fed, well armed, and your name is spoken with a certain fearful awe. But you are never truly one of them. You are the Jar LS living weapon, his deterrent. Your mere presence at his side is a political statement. It says, "Do not challenge me, for I have men who feel no fear and no pain." You are a status symbol, like a fine sword or a strong fortress, but you are also an object of intense scrutiny. The Jar watches you. His advisors watch you. They are constantly assessing your stability, your loyalty. You are an asset, but a volatile one. One of the more peculiar historical debates revolves around the berserker's relationship with the law. In peacetime, how was such a person controlled? Some scholars argue that being part of a Jar LSH, IR placed you under his direct legal authority. Your actions were his responsibility. This provided a kind of legal cage for your condition. Any rampage or duel you engaged in would be an offense against your lord, with severe consequences. This was a way for society to incorporate and regulate a deeply anti-social and dangerous trait. Your days become a routine of drills, guard duty, then waiting. You stand for hours at the door of the longhouse, a silent, menacing statue. You travel with the Jarl, a clear symbol of his power. The internal hum, the beast in your blood, is still there, but now it is trapped in a gilded cage. You are surrounded by people, but you have never been more alone. You have no real friends, only colleagues who are wary of you and a lord who sees you as a tool. One evening, the drunken warrior, jealous of your position, makes a stupid challenge. He questions your courage, mocks your silence. The other men in the hall go quiet, watching. They expect an explosion. They expect a bad dog to bite. The old you, the boy from the village, would have been stung by the insult. The berserker in you feels the familiar surge, the hot flash of rage. But the man who has stood guard for months, the man who has learned the grim art of self-control, does something else. You look at the drunken fool, and you find that still, quiet place inside you that Björn taught you to build. You hold the man's gaze, your eyes flattened cold, and you say nothing. Your silence is more terrifying than any roar would have been. The man shrinks back, his drunken bravado evaporating under your unnerving calm. The moment passes. You have won, not with fury, but with its absolute containment. You are learning to wear your reputation like a cloak of armor. You don't need to unleash the beast to be feared. The threat of the beast is now your primary weapon. But you are keenly aware that you are living on a knife's edge. You are the Jar LS treasured hound. But even the most valuable hound can be put down if it is suspected of rabies. Years pass. You are no longer a boy, but a man, hardened by life in the Jar LS hall. The peace, however, is fragile. The Jar LS power attracts rivals, and the drums of war beat once more. But this time, something has changed. The world itself is changing. News and traders from the south bring more than just silver and wine. They bring new ideas, new laws, a new god. The talk is of the White Christ, a single, powerful god who supplants the old pantheon of Odin. Thor and Freya, kings in other lands, are converting, and with their conversion come new ways of thinking, new rules for society. In this changing world, a figure like you becomes more than just a dangerous warrior. You become a symbol of a wild, pagan past that the new order seeks to tame. You are an uncomfortable reminder of the old ways. The first hint of this change comes in the form of law, one of the earliest Icelandic legal codes. The Gragas Grey Goose laws contains specific clauses dealing with berserkers. It states that a man who goes into a berserker fury is to be punished with lesser outlawry, a form of exile for 3 years. If a berserker kills someone, it is not treated as battlefield valor. It is murder. The law even specifies that if witnesses see a man biting his shield or howling like an animal to work himself into a rage, they have a right and a duty to restrain him. This is a profound shift. Society is no longer making allowances for your condition. It is actively legislating against it. Your spiritual state, the communion with the bear spirit that Bjorn taught you, is being reclassified as a criminal offense. The reason for this is a topic of intense historical discussion. Was it a practical measure to curb the violence of rogue warriors and bullies who were terrorizing the countryside? Or was it part of the broader Christianization of Scandinavia, a deliberate effort to stamp out a dramatic and highly visible pagan ritual? The sagas written in the Christian era, like Egil's saga, often portray berserkers not as holy warriors of Odin, but as demonic, almost troll-like figures who are eventually defeated by Christian heroes. Your identity is being rewritten by a new narrative. You feel this shift in the Jar Ellis own hall. He has begun to entertain Christian missionaries. He listens to their talk of one God, of sin and salvation. He is a pragmatic man. He sees the political winds are changing. Aligning with the Christian kings of Europe brings trade, alliances, and a new kind of legitimacy. You and your few remaining berserker brothers are now relics. You are living fossils from a dying age. The younger warriors in the hall look at you not just with fear, but with a kind of pitying contempt. You are the old magic in a world that is beginning to believe in new miracles. The Jarl, your protector, the man who gave you a place, starts to distance himself from you. He no longer has you stand at his high seat during feasts. He assigns you to guard the outer walls, far from his chambers. The leash you have been on is getting longer, but it is not a sign of trust. It is a sign that he is preparing to cut you loose entirely. One day, you overhear 2 of his advisors talking. They speak of the Jar-El-'s potential baptism. He cannot be a good Christian king while keeping Odin's mad dogs in his own house. One says to the other, they will have to be dealt with. The words send a chill down your spine that no battlefield ever could. Dealt with. It is a cold, bureaucratic phrase for something much uglier. You are no longer an asset. You are a political liability, a pagan embarrassment. This was the historical fate of the berserker. As central authority grew and a more formalized, Christian-influenced legal and social structure took hold across Scandinavia, there was no place for such an uncontrollable, individualistic warrior cult. The laws didn't just punish berserkers, they effectively made their existence impossible. The wild heart of the Viking Age was being tamed, regulated, and civilized, and you are the wild heart. You look at your hands, calloused from the heft of your axe. You think of the forest clearing, of Bjorn's etchings, of the bear spirit. It all seems like a story from another world, a myth that is crumbling to dust. The world no longer has a place for you, and for the first time, you are not afraid of the beast inside you. You are afraid of the world outside, a world that has decided you are a monster that needs to be slain. The pressure inside the Jar Ellis hall becomes unbearable. The sideways glances, the whispered conversations that stop when you draw near. The chilling sense of being a ghost at a feast, it is a constant, grinding weight on your soul. You know your time as the Jar Ellis mad dog is over. You are a tool he is about to discard. Before he can deal with you, you decide to leave. One moonless night, you gather your few belongings, racks, your shield, a whetstone, and a small pouch of silver you have earned, and you walk out of the Jar Ellis fortified town. You don't look back. There is nothing there for you but a comfortable cage that was about to become a tomb. You are adrift, a man out of time. You wander from settlement to settlement, trying to find a place to exist, but the world has turned against your kind. The new laws and the new faith have spread like wildfire. The reputation of the berserker is no longer one of a holy warrior, but of a dangerous outlaw. In one town, you try to find work as a mercenary, offering your axe to a caravan master. He takes one look at the old scars on your face, the unsettling stillness in your eyes. and the way you carry yourself. Then he shakes his head. I need guards. Not trouble, he says, and turns his back. In another village, you simply try to trade for food. The moment you are recognized, or rather, the moment they think they recognize what you are, the doors are barred. The faces turn to stone. You are a walking plague. The loneliness is a constant, gnawing companion. You miss the grim brotherhood of the forest clearing. The silent understanding between you and men like Gunner and Leaf. You have no one to share the burden with. No one who understands the constant, low-grade hum of the power that still lies in your blood. In your desperation, you start to hear whispers of other ways. The mushroom theory was one path Bjorn had scorned. Now, you hear of another, darker one. You fall in with a rough crowd of mercenaries, men who live on the absolute fringes of society. One of them, a gaunt, shifty-eyed man with tattooed knuckles, sees the desperation in you. The old rage is not answering the call anymore. He asks you one night, I am miserable. Smoky fire. The spirit has flown. You just grunt in response, not wanting to admit the truth. That summoning the rage has become harder, less reliable. As you have grown older and the world has grown colder. The man grins, a conspiratorial, unpleasant expression. He tells you of a drink, a special brew favored by warriors who need an extra edge, who don't have the gift but want the results. It is not just strong ale. It is an herbal concoction, a mixture of potent and often poisonous plants. The key ingredient, he says, is henbane, a plant known to cause delirium, hallucinations, disorientation, and a loss of social inhibition. Mixed with other herbs and strong alcohol, it could supposedly induce a state of artificial, reckless fury. This is another of the major theories proposed by modern academics to explain the Berserker phenomenon. Unlike the mushroom theory, which has no direct textual support, the use of henbane Hysiamus niger as a ritual intoxicant is better documented in other parts of Europe. Its effect, which can include a flushed face, dilated pupils, and erotic, aggressive behavior, match some of the saga descriptions even better than mushrooms do. Crucially, it doesn't typically cause the nausea associated with fly agaric. Some scholars have even done experimental archaeology, recreating these supposed Viking era, these psychopative brews. The results are predictably terrifying, producing states of extreme confusion and uncontrollable aggression. It is a plausible, if grim, alternative to the spiritual or psychological explanations. The mercenary offers you a small leather flask, a taste. It will remind you of who you are. You look at the flask, then at the man's greedy eyes. This is a complete betrayal of everything Bjorn taught you. His path was about discipline, about mastering a spiritual gift. This is about poisoning yourself for a quick, dirty high. It is the path of desperation. You are desperate. You take the flask. The liquid inside is thick and smells foul, a bitter, medicinal odor under the harsh scent of cheap ale. You hesitate for a long moment. Is this what you have become? A man so lost he would turn to poison to feel powerful again. This moment is a crossroads. Historians still debate. Was the Berserker a single, unified phenomenon? Or was it a catch-all term for different kinds of furious warriors? Perhaps the original Berserkers, the bear shorts, were a spiritual tradition, as you first learned it, and perhaps later, as the tradition died out, others tried to mimic their effects through chemical means, mushrooms, or henbane lay stale. Maybe the stories have conflated them all into one legendary figure. You push the flask back into the man's hand. I will find my own fire, you say, your voice slow. You walk away from the campfire, away from the mercenaries and their poisonous shortcuts. It is a small act of defiance, a moment of clinging to the last shreds of your old identity, your old honor, but it leaves you with the same problem as before. You are alone, you are an outcast, and the beast inside you is a fickle and fading companion. You have chosen the harder path, and you have no idea where it leads. You are utterly alone now, a solitary wanderer in a world that has no name for you other than outlaw. The nights are the hardest. You sleep in the woods, under rocky overhangs, or in abandoned huts. the cold seeping into your bones. You dream, not of battles, but of the longhouse of your childhood, the warmth of the central fire, the smell of your mother's cooking, the sound of your father's quiet humming. You wake up with a hollow ache in your chest that has nothing to do with hunger. This entire chapter of our story isn't about what you do, but about what you feel. We are going to close our eyes and sink into your inner world, into the storm of being a man like you, stripped of his purpose and his people. First, there is the fear. It is a low, constant hum, the new baseline of your existence. It is not the sharp, thrilling fear of an impending battle. It is the dull, grinding fear of the hunted. Every traveler you see on the road could be a bounty hunter. Every village you approach could be a trap. The new laws have put a price on your head, not for anything you have done, but for what you are. You find yourself constantly scanning the tree line, startling at the snap of a twig. The instincts that once made you a peerless warrior now just make you a paranoid wreck. Then there is the loneliness. It is a physical presence, as real and as heavy as your axe. In the jar, Ellis Hall, you were separate, but you were seen. You had a role. Here, in the wilderness, your existence feels thin, unwitnessed. Does a man really exist if no one knows his name? You talk to yourself, sometimes, just to hear a human voice. You try to recall the faces of your brothers from the forest gunner. Leif, Torsten, where are they now? Are they dead? In chains? Or are they like you? Lonely ghosts haunting the edges of the world. The Brotherhood was your anchor, and now you are adrift on a cold, endless sea. And beneath it all, there is the rage. But it is a different kind of rage now. The Berserker gang was a clean, hot fire, a terrifying but pure force of nature. This new anger is a sour, smoky thing. It is resentment. It is a bitter, churning fury at the world that has cast you out. Why were you given this gift, this power, only for it to become a curse? Why were you trained to be the ultimate weapon for a society that now deems you obsolete and monstrous? This internal psychological state is something the sagas, with their focus on action and lineage, rarely explore in depth. But it is the inevitable human reality behind the myth. What happens to a weapon when the war is over? What happens to a man whose entire identity is tied to a state of being that society now rejects? This is the core of your tragedy. You are not just a warrior in forced retirement. You are a man whose very soul has been outlawed. You sit by a small, hidden fire, staring into the flames. You think about the two sides of your life, the boy who was afraid of the power inside him, and the warrior who learned to unleash it. You think of Bjorn's spiritual teachings and the mercenary-esque chemical shortcuts. You think of the terror in the eyes of your enemies and the fear in the eyes of your own family. It all swirls in your mind, a confusing mess of pride and shame. There is a deep, abiding hatred for the thing inside you. You hate the way it cost you your family. You hate the way it made you a tool for the Jarl. You hate the memory of the red mist and the things you did while lost within it. You hate the weakness and despair that always followed. You wish, with all your heart, that you could cut it out of you, that you could be a simple farmer or fisherman, a man whose hands were for mending nets, not for breaking shields. But there is also, in a secret, shameful corner of your heart, a kind of love for it. You love the memory of the power, the feeling of absolute fearlessness. You love the moment when all the complexities and anxieties of being human fall away, replaced by a single, simple, overwhelming purpose. It was a terrible god to serve, but it made you feel like a god, if only for a few moments. To deny that part of the experience would be a lie. This internal conflict, the hatred for and attraction to one's own trauma or power, is a profound psychological truth. People who have survived intense experiences often report this same duality. You are trapped between longing for the simplicity of a normal life you can never have, and a strange nostalgia for the intense, world-altering experiences that ruined you for it. The wind whispers through the pines, and it sounds like the disappointed sigh of the old gods. You are their forgotten son, the relic of their fading power. The world is moving on, and it is leaving you behind, alone with the storm inside your own head. The seasons turn. The snows of winter give way to the mud of spring. which hardens into the dusty ground of summer. You are a creature of the wild now, living off the land. You hunt, you forage, you steal when you must. You are leaner, harder, but also older. The relentless march of time is a force that even the bear spirit cannot fight. You begin to notice a change. A slow, creeping transformation that has nothing to do with the outside world and everything to do with the landscape within. The hum in your blood, the constant, low-grade vibration of the beast, is fading. At first, you don't trust it. You think it is just dormant, lulled by the lack of conflict. But the quiet persists. There are days now when you wake up and the first thing you feel is not the familiar inner tension, but just the cold morning air on your skin. The world feels flat, less vibrant, but also less threatening. One day, you are cornered by two hungry-looking brigands on a lonely forest path. They see your axe and shield, but they also see that you are alone, and they fancy their odds. The odds you would have felt the immediate, exhilarating surge. The trigger would have been pulled. The door would have been thrown open. You ready your axe, your heart pounding with ordinary, human fear. You feel a surge of adrenaline, the kind any man would feel in a fight for his life. But the other thing, the great wave, the red mist, it doesn't come. You call for it. You reach for it. Mentally, using the triggers Bjorn taught you, you try to summon the rage, the memory of the bear, and nothing happens. There is a faint echo, a distant rumble like a thunderstorm on the far side of a mountain range, but the lightning doesn't strike. The god does not answer the call. The fight is a clumsy, terrifying, and purely human affair. It is not a whirlwind of destruction. It is a desperate struggle of grunting, sweating, and straining. You are not a force of nature. You are just a man trying not to die. Your experience as a warrior serves you while your footwork is sure. Your sense of timing is sharp. You manage to wound one of the men and the other loses his nerve and flees, leaving his injured companion behind. You are left standing in the quiet forest, breathing heavily. You are making from blocking a blow, a shallow cut bleeding on your cheek. You won, but you feel no elation, only a profound and bewildering sense of loss. The fire is going out. Why this happens is a question with no single answer. From a modern psychological perspective, age could be a factor. The intense physiological state of the Berserker gang relies on a youthful, robust endocrine system, a body that can produce and withstand a massive flood of hormones like adrenaline and testosterone. As you age, your body's ability to do this naturally diminishes. From a spiritual perspective, as understood by Bjorn, perhaps the spirit has simply departed. The world no longer has need of it. So it has retreated back into the deep woods, leaving you an empty vessel. The new faith has weakened the old gods, and their power in the world is waning. You are a casualty of a spiritual war. Historians who favor a pathological model might suggest that whatever underlying condition you had, be it a form of epilepsy or an intermittent explosive disorder, has simply burned itself out over time. As some of these conditions do, whatever the reason, the result is the same. You are being slowly, inexorably reduced to an ordinary man, and it is terrifying. Your entire identity for your adult life has been built around this extraordinary, terrible power. It shaped who you are, how you fought, how people saw you. It was a curse, yes, but it was your curse. It made you special. Now, what are you? You are a middle-aged man with old scars, haunted memories, and a skill set that is rapidly becoming obsolete. The one thing that set you apart from every other man is gone. You find yourself trying to provoke it, to find a spark of the old fire. You engage in reckless behavior, taking fights you should avoid, taking risks you don't need to take. You are like an addict chasing a high that no longer comes, but it is no use. The connection is severed. The god has left the temple. You are left with only the echoes and the consequences. The social exile, the fearful reputation those remain, even though the power that created them has vanished. You are a living legend about a man who no longer exists. The slow, quiet fading of your rage is a stranger and more cruel fate than being cut down in a blaze of glory on the battlefield. The beast inside you is all but gone. leaving behind the hollow quiet and the aching ghosts of old injuries. The world has moved on, and you are left with a choice: fade away in the wilderness, or attempt one last, desperate act of purpose. The choice is made for you when news reaches you, carried on the wind by travelers and merchants. Your old Jar, the one you served and fled, is facing his greatest test. A powerful coalition of rival clans, emboldened by the Jar LS wavering between the old gods and the new, has risen to challenge him for his lands. A great battle is brewing, one that will decide the fate of the entire region. A strange, unfamiliar feeling stirs in you. Not the Berserker rage, but something quieter, loyalty, or perhaps it is just a desire to go out on your own terms, to face the end in a place you know, rather than dying alone in some forgotten wood. You turn your steps back towards the lands of your youth. You arrive at the Jar LS war camp a few days before the battle. It is a sprawling city of tents and campfires. You are older now, your face more deeply lined, your beard streaked with gray. You are no longer the terrifying young warrior from the sagas. Most of the men here are too young to have known you. To them, you are just another aging warrior, another sword for the meat grinder. You find a place in the ranks of the common levy, the bondi, the farmers and landholders called to fight. You are no longer elite. You are just one of the rank and file. It is a humbling experience. You stand in line for your ration of bread and salted fish. You sharpen your axe alongside men who speak of their farms and their families, and you feel a strange sense of peace in this anonymity. On the eve of the battle, the Jarl walks through the camp. He is older too, his red beard now more silver than flame. He passes your small campfire, and for a moment, his eyes meet yours. There is a flicker of recognition, a brief, startled expression. He sees the ghost of his former mad dog. He looks at you, a man he once feared and valued, now just another soldier in the line. He hesitates, as if to speak, but then just gives a curt, almost imperceptible nod, and moves on. The gesture is ambiguous. Is it acknowledgement, dismissal, forgiveness? You will never know. The morning of the battle is cold and misty. You take your place in the shield wall. For the first time in your life, you are not behind the wall, waiting to be unleashed. You are the wall. Your shield, the one you once bit in a frenzy, is now locked with the shields of the men on either side of you, a farmer on your left, a fisherman on your right. You feel a profound and unfamiliar sense of belonging. Your strength is not your own. It is part of a greater whole. Your survival depends not on your individual fury, but on the courage and discipline of the men standing shoulder to shoulder with you. It is the lesson you never learned, the part of being a warrior that your unique condition always denied you. When the enemy shield wall advances, you feel fear, pure, simple, human fear. Your heart hammers in your chest. Your palms sweat inside your gloves. There is no reed mist to save you, no bear spirit to carry you through. There is only you, your shield, your axe, then the man next to you. The two walls crash together with a sound like a thunderclap. A brutal collision of wood, iron, and flesh. The press is immense. You are straining with every muscle just to hold your ground. Your shield groaning under the pressure. A spear juts through a gap, and you instinctively turn it aside with your axe. You are not the whirlwind of destruction. You are a cog in a great, grinding machine. This experience of fighting as part of a disciplined unit is the historical reality for the vast majority of Viking warriors. The Berserker was the rare, terrifying exception. The shield wall was the rule. It was a testament to collective strength over individual prowess. Some military historians argue that the effectiveness of the shield wall is precisely why figures like berserkers were ultimately phased out. As armies became more organized and tactics more sophisticated, the unpredictable chaos agent became less valuable than a dozen disciplined, reliable soldiers who would hold the line. In the chaos, you fight with a cold, desperate clarity. You rely on things you haven't used in years. Footwork, timing, watching your opponent's eyes, conserving your energy. You are not a demigod of battle. You are a craftsman, and your craft is survival. You protect the man on your left. He protects you. You see, an opening and take it. A quick, efficient blow, then immediately reform the line. It is the hardest fight of your life. It is grueling, exhausting, and utterly terrifying. And in a strange way, it is the most meaningful. You are not fighting as a monster or a tool. You are fighting as a man for the men beside you. You have, at the very end of your road, found a different kind of brotherhood. Not one of outcasts, but one of common cause. The battle rages for what feels like an eternity. The sun climbs high in the sky, beating down on the field. The ground underfoot is a churned mess of mud and gore. Men fall, are replaced in the line, and the great, grinding scrum continues. You are exhausted. Your body a screaming chorus of aches and pains, old and new, but you are still standing. You fight with the grim economy of a man who knows his reserves are finite. Every movement is calculated. You no longer have the boundless energy of the Berserker gang to draw upon. All you have is your experience and a stubborn refusal to die. Late in the afternoon, the tide of the battle turns. A section of the enemy's shield wall, worn down by hours of relentless pressure, finally breaks. A cheer goes up from your line. A ragged, desperate sound. The Jarl, seeing the opportunity, commits his reserves, and the enemy formation begins to crumble in the ensuing chaos. As the structured battle dissolves into a series of running fights, you find yourself separated from your comrades. You are suddenly face to face with a huge, axe-wielding enemy chieftain, his armor finer than the rest, his face a mask of grim determination. He is a formidable opponent, and he sees you, a tired, gray-bearded warrior, as an easy kill. He comes at you with a powerful, overhead swing. In your youth, you would have met his rage with your own, a terrifying explosion of violence. But the rage is gone. You have only your wits. You don't try to block the blow. You know his strength would shatter your shield and your arm with it. Instead, you do something you would never have done in your Berserker fury. You yelled. You move with his attack, letting the force of his blow slide past you, throwing him slightly off balance. It is a subtle, practiced move, the kind of technique a seasoned warrior learns when strength alone is no longer enough. For a split second, he is open. His momentum has carried him forward, and his side is exposed. You are too tired for a powerful swing. Instead, you lunge, not with your axe, but with the iron boss in the center of your shield, putting all of your remaining weight and energy into it. You slam it into his ribs with a sickening crunch. He stumbles back, the wind knocked out of him, his eyes wide with surprise. The great chieftain, and done not by a superhuman rage, but by a cunning, desperate move from an old soldier. He drops to one knee, gasping for air. The fight is over. You stand over him, breathing heavily, your axe held ready, but you don't deliver the final blow. The fire for killing, the blind imperative to destroy, is gone. You just look at him, another aging warrior at the end of his road. You leave him for others to capture and turn away, seeking the relative safety of your own lines. You have survived. After the battle, as the victorious army regroups, you slip away from the camp. Your duty is done. You have faced the end and walked away from it. There are no more battles for you. You find a small, abandoned croft, a single-room stone hut with a turf roof on a secluded hillside overlooking the fjord. The land is poor. The hut is crumbling, but it is peaceful. You decide this is where you will stay. Your life as a warrior, as a berserker, as a wanderer, is over. You begin a new life, a life of quiet routine. You patch the roof of the hut. You clear the small, overgrown field of stones. You fish in the fjord. You set snares for rabbits. The work is hard. Your body aches, but it is a good ache. It is the ache of building something, not destroying it. This transition from warrior to farmer was the ideal for many Viking Age men. The sagas are full of stories of men who go raiding in their youth and then settle down to run their farms in their old age. But for you, it is not a natural progression. It is a conscious, deliberate choice to reject everything you once were. You are trying to learn, late in life, the language of peace. There is a historical debate about whether a berserker could ever truly reintegrate into society. The laws against them and the fear they inspired suggest it would have been incredibly difficult. But society wasn't a monolith. In a remote, sparsely populated area, a man's past might matter less than his ability to survive and not cause trouble. Perhaps a quiet, solitary retirement was the only viable option. The local villagers from the nearest settlement, a long walk away, are wary of you at first. They know a strange old man has taken over the abandoned croft, but you do not approach them. You keep to yourself. You are not a threat. You are just a quiet, solitary old man. Slowly, over many seasons, their fear subsides, replaced by a kind of distant, incurious acceptance. You become part of the landscape. Like an old, gnarled tree, you have finally found a place where you are not a weapon, not a monster, not a legend. You are just a man, living a small, quiet life at the edge of the world, haunted by the echoes of a storm that has finally passed. Years blur into one another, marked only by the changing of the seasons. Your life is pared down to its essentials. The struggle for warmth, for food, for shelter. The quiet is profound. Sometimes you go for weeks without hearing another human voice. The silence allows the ghosts of your past to speak, but their voices are softer now, faded by time. The world outside continues its relentless march forward. Traders and occasional travelers who pass through the nearest village bring news. The old Jarl is dead. His son, a Christian, now rules. Churches are being built where sacred groves once stood. The runes of the old alphabet are slowly being replaced by the letters of the Latin script. The old gods Odin, Thor, the spirits of the forest are becoming stories told to children, fading into folklore. You are a living embodiment of that fading world. Everything you were, everything you believed, is becoming a myth. The Berserker gang, the bear spirit, the sacred rage of Odin Nest chosen, it all belongs to an age that is closing like a book. You are sitting outside your hut one evening, mending a fishing net, when you see a figure walking up the path. It is a young man, a boy of perhaps 16 or 17, from the village down in the valley. You had seen him before, watching you from a distance, his face a mixture of fear and fascination. He stops a respectful distance away, his hands fidgeting. They say you were one of them, he says, his voice cracking with adolescent uncertainty. One of the bear shirts. They say you fought with the old Jarl. You look at the boy. In his eyes, you see the same fire you once had, the same restless energy. You see a boy who feels out of place in this new, tamer world of priests and farmers. He is looking for a hero from the glorious past. He is looking for a legend. You could tell him stories. You could tell him of the red mist, of the feeling of inhuman power, of breaking the shield wall. You could feed his hunger for glory, make yourself a giant in his eyes. The temptation is there, a final flicker of old pride. But you look down at your own hands. They are no longer the hands of a warrior. They are the gnarled, calloused hands of an old man who works the land and the sea. They are scarred, yes, but they are also hands that have learned to mend, to build, to be patient. The sagas are full of stories. Boy, you say, your voice rough from disuse. Go read them. My story is in this net, and in the fish I hope to catch tomorrow. The boy looks disappointed. He was hoping for a monster, the hero, a legend. He found only a tired old man. He mumbles an apology and retreats back down the path, leaving you in peace. This moment reflects a great historical truth. As the Viking Age ended and the Christian Middle Ages began, the old oral traditions were written down by men like Snorri Sturluson, but they were written down with a new perspective. They were preserving the old stories, but also shaping them, interpreting them through a new, Christian lens. The Berserker was transformed from a holy warrior into, at best, a tragic anti-hero, and at worst, a demonic villain. The raw, terrifying reality of your experience was being smoothed over, simplified, and turned into literature. A fascinating and poignant detail is found in the language itself. The Old Norse word berserker falls out of common use in later medieval Scandinavian law. The term is replaced by words that mean something more like brigand, marauder, or public nuisance. The spiritual dimension is completely erased. The law, reflecting the new societal norms, no longer has a category for sacred madness. It only has a category for crime. You watch the boy disappear down the hill. You have refused to become a character in his saga. You have refused to perform the role of the monster. Your reality, the pain, the fear, the loneliness, the confusion, the brief, terrible moments of power is too complex, too human for the simple stories they tell now. You are perhaps the last of your kind. The world has no more need for men who can talk to the bear spirit. The forests where Björn held his rituals are being cleared for farmland. The gods you served are silent. You are an echo, the memory, living out your final days in a world that has forgotten the sound of your song. And in that, there is a strange, sad peace. The burden of being a legend is finally lifted. You are free to simply be a man. The final winter arrives, as all winters must. It comes early and with a savage bite, burying your small craft in a deep blanket of snow. The world shrinks to the four walls of your hut, the gray light from the smoke hole, and the warm, hypnotic glow of your small peat fire. Your bones ache with the cold that the fire cannot touch. Moving is a slow, deliberate effort. Your days are spent in a rocking chair you carved yourself, wrapped in a bearskin cloak, not the one of a warrior, but the worn-out hide of an animal you hunted long ago. It is a pale imitation of the symbol you once carried, a ghost of a ghost. You are not afraid. The fears of a warrior of a sharp blade or a sudden arrow are long behind you. The fears of a wanderer of starvation or exile have been conquered. What is left is a quiet, weary acceptance. The ship of your life is sailing into its final, quiet harbor. You sit by the fire and you remember. The memories come and bited, no longer sharp and painful, but soft at the edges, like stones worn smooth by the sea. You remember the face of your mother, handing you a bowl of porridge in the dim light of the longhouse. You remember Bjorn's piercing blue eyes in the forest clearing. You remember the grim, silent camaraderie of Gunnar and Leaf. You even remember the Jar Ellis grudging nod of respect after your final battle. And you remember the rage. You remember the bear spirit. You think of it now not as a demon or a god, but simply as a part of the world that has passed. It was a great, wild fire. It gave a terrible heat, and it burned you down to the foundations. But from those foundations, this new, quiet life was built. You couldn't have had this peace without surviving that storm. What was the Berserker? Really, you, who have lived it from the inside, still don't have a single, simple answer. Was it a psychological condition? A madness born of battle? Yes, you felt the madness. Was it a spiritual gift? A communion with the gods? Yes, you felt the divine power. Was it a product of ritual and training? Yes, you endured the training. Was it a social role? A character you were forced to play? Yes, you wore the mask of the monster. It was all of these things. It was a complex knot of psychology, religion, and social function that could only exist in a specific time and place, the Viking Age. It was not a simple thing that a single theory, mushrooms, unbane, hypnosis could ever fully explain. The truth, like most truths, was messy and contradictory. This is the ultimate statement on the academic debate. It is a debate because the answer is not a single point, but a tangled web. One of the last kings to be associated with berserkers in the sagas was Harald Hardrada, who fought his final battle in England in 1066, a date often used to mark the end of the Viking Age. In the stories of his famous VA Arnchiangard, there are mentions of furious warriors, but the classic image of the shield biting, howling berserker was already a thing of the past, a relic of a wilder time. You are the personal embodiment of that historical transition. A blizzard rages outside, the wind howling around the corners of your stone hut. It sounds like the battle cries of old. You close your eyes. You imagine the beast, the great bear spirit that lived in your bones for so long. You see it not as a raging monster, but as an old bear, its fur grayed, its muscles stiff, curling up in its den for its final, long sleep. You are at peace with it now. It was your companion, your curse, and your greatest teacher. You pull the bearskin cloak tighter around your shoulders. The fire is burning low, casting long, dancing shadows on the wall. The shadows look like warriors in a shield wall, like trees in a dark forest, like the waves of the fjord. Your breathing slows, becoming as softened, as regular as the falling snow outside. You have lived as a storm, and now you have found your calm, your story. The true story of the man inside the monster is over. The fire in your hearth settles into a soft, glowing bed of embers, pulsing with a gentle, sleepy rhythm. The wind outside has softened its song. Now, just a low, soothing hum that wraps around the small stone hut like a lullaby. The world has gone quiet, and you can feel the great, heavy blanket of winter settling over the land, muffling all sound, encouraging a deep and profound rest. Your journey is at its end now. The battles have been fought, the long roads have been walked, and the storms both inside and out have finally passed. There is nothing left to fight, nothing left to fear. There is only this stillness, this deep undurned peace. You feel a pleasant weightlessness, as if you are floating in the calm, dark waters of a fjord at midnight, the stars reflected on the surface above. The memories of your life are no longer sharp stones, but distant, twinkling lights, part of a grand constellation whose pattern is, at last, clear and beautiful. The fear, the anger, the loneliness, they are just faraway stars, no longer burning, their light having taken a lifetime to reach you, softened by the vast, peaceful distance. Let your breathing slow down, matching the gentle pulse of the embers. Feel the warmth, not just from the fire, but from the quiet satisfaction of a story told, a life lived to its very fullest. The old bear's spirit is not a raging beast anymore, but a warm, heavy presence, a furry cloak settling over you, guarding your slumber. You have earned this rest. You have earned this silence. Drift now, on this slow, gentle tide of sleep, into the quiet, snow-covered landscape of your dreams. There are no more shield walls to break, no more long winters to survive. There is only this deep, comfortable, and endless peace.